We'll call the council meeting to order. Everybody stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, take the roll.
O'Connor.
Here.
Morrison.
Here.
Alms.
Here.
DeZio.
Here.
Weber.
Here.
Atkins Hoggett. Here. Hall.
Here.
All right, we have a couple representatives from the library here tonight to do a public presentation, annual report, a couple other things, I guess. So Tina is here, and the president, Paul, is here as well. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Tina Norris. I am the library director, and this is Paul Burning. He is the current library board president. I know there are two things on the agenda, but the second one was just for the council's information, so you are aware of our new strategic plan. So, first, let me say thank you for giving me this opportunity to let you know how the past year went and what we're looking forward to. The library's mission is to strengthen the community by providing information, inspiration, innovative ideas, and a world of possibility. And why do we do that? We at the library believe that no matter where you are in life, regardless of age, income, learning ability, or political persuasion, the library transforms and enriches lives. Literally, we offer a world of possibilities. Our vision of a successful future looks like this. The Hudson Area Public Library is a thriving community center for information, inspiration, and innovative ideas that empower personal growth and provide a welcome gathering space that improves lives and connects the community. The Hudson Area Library is recognized as a leading resource for educational support, self-directed and lifelong learning opportunities, and 21st century literacies. The Hudson Area Public Library is a cornerstone of family, cultural, and civic life in the community. And finally, the Hudson Area Public Library is a forward-thinking organization that believes in the potential of each employee and inspires and empowers them to succeed professionally. So that's our vision of success. So how are we doing? Well, circulation in 2017, we circulated 248,253 physical materials. That's our books, our audio books, whatever you come in the library and take back out with you. 2018, we increased by 1.6% to 252,313 items. Digital materials in 2017 were 35,585. In 2018, that was 43,130 for an increase of 21.2%. Our total circulation, both digital and physical materials, increased by 4.3% between the 2 years. 85.2% of our circulation is physical materials, the books, audiobooks, DVDs, CDs, lawn game equipment. You should come in and see what we've got. And 14.8% of our circulation is digital materials. Last year, 126,955 visitors stopped by the library. The library offered 578 programs with 14,891 attending. The total programming budget for 2018 was $21,054, with 88.3% of that program budget being funded by grants from the Hudson Area Library Foundation, and 11.7% of that funding coming from the library's regular budget. The return on investment for grant-funded programs in 2018 was $9.79. If you have any questions about that number, feel free to stop by my office. I'll pull the spreadsheet up and give you the whole calculation. But it's basically, I do it by looking at the cost of similar programs and then how much our cost per person is. So it's a quite large spreadsheet, but I have it. In 2019, the Hudson Area Library Foundation has provided $36,100 in grants for library programming, and $12,600 for a one-year limited term iLab. It's a computer assistant, so people can come in and learn how to use all of the great equipment that we have, the emerging technology. The foundation also raised an additional $1,200 at their Harry Potter event in October. And just to plug here, the Library Foundation is having a gala on May 11th. You can look on our website and get tickets if you're interested. So, one last thing about the foundation. They provided the funding for our new website. So if you go and look at our website, that was funded by the Library Foundation. The Friends of the Library in 2018 provided $9,765 in funding for new shelving and books in the children's area. And additionally, they sought and received an additional $10,235 in grants from community organizations, and those grants were used to revitalize our children's area. For 2019, the Friends of the Library have provided $14,100 in grant funding for Genealogy and History Room grant, a YA collection and teen enhancement grant, large print collection grant, audiobook grant, DVD grant, and digital resources grant. Reference USA database, that is coming, and it will go live on April 1st, so if anybody needs to use that, library is your place to go. You just need a library card. 2018, the library successfully completed its strategic plan for 2015 through 2018 and developed a new plan to guide us into the future. The new plan is built upon the foundation laid by the previous plan and was implemented on January 1st, 2019. The new strategic plan has these priorities. Number 1, promote education, literacy, and lifelong learning. 2, support workforce and economic development. 3, create innovative library spaces and develop dynamic collections, resources, and enhance technology. 4, foster community connections and engagement. 5, strengthen and improve organizational health. 6, define and delineate the roles of the library board and support organizations. For 2019, we've established outcome measurements to determine our success in areas of improvement. So staff are tracking our successes. We're tracking number of attendance at programs so we can see that we hit those targets, make changes along the way so we can be sure that we are making the improvements that we want to be making and reaching our goals. In 2019, the library plans to continue with our enhanced programming. We began offering extended hours on January 6th, so we are now open on Sundays from 12 to 4 during the school year. And with a grant from St. Croix County, the library also has two new Wi-Fi hotspots available for checkout. We will be updating our public access computers this year, so by the end of the year, all of our computers will be updated and upgraded. And we just installed 2 new self-checkout stations, and those are up and running. So, there you have it. Any questions?
I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
So the circulation increase, what does that compare to other like communities or other like library sizes?
Across the nation, it's been declining, so that we're going up, that's a really good thing.
Gotcha.
But that decline is kind of flattened out. So,
from a national standpoint?
From a national standpoint.
Gotcha.
And locally, I mean, regionally, it's across the board, it's up and down. It just depends on where you're at.
Gotcha. Is there any specific things that you attribute the increase to? Is there more people utilizing it?
More people utilizing. I think we've really looked at our collection development and how we're deciding what books to purchase. And it's been much more user-centric. So we're finding out what people want, and that's what we're ordering.
Great.
And so when you do that, circulation increases.
Right on. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? All right. Well, thank you, and thank you for supporting the library.
Thanks, Dean.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. All right. Comments and suggestions from citizens present. This is your opportunity to say pretty much anything you'd like to talk about here, except for things that are on the agenda. Is there anybody that has public comment?
Mike Mraz, Director of Public Works for the City of Hudson. Just thought I'd take a moment to address a couple of areas of concerns that our office has been receiving over the course of the last couple of weeks. One of them being potholes, and the second one being the river. So pothole season is upon us, and basically we have had a single crew out doing cold mix patching over the last couple of weeks. We got our spray patch machine up and running today, so we have a crew on that, and then apparently the local hot asphalt plant is possibly going to start mixing hot asphalt here, so we'll have a second crew repairing potholes with hot mix here over the course of the next week. So we'll have 2 crews out probably for the next 3 to 4 weeks out filling potholes. So if you do come across some doozies or some areas, call the office at the city here, Public Works. We're taking a list and we'll get somebody out to your area as soon as possible. So that's number 1. Number 2 is the flood, the river, St. Croix River. I spoke with the local authority with the National Weather Service out of the Chanhassen office this morning, and according to their predictions, based upon kind of the current weather patterns that we've been having, barring any major fluctuations in the extended forecast, we're looking at cresting Sunday night, Monday, at about 88.6, in between 88 and 89 levels. So that's fairly good news for the majority of the city. I know there was some sandbagging efforts down in Front Street this past weekend, so thank you to all those individuals that came out and helped those residents. But so that's kind of the update on that. I know the city staff has been clearing out Buckeye Garage. We have barricades ready. I'm sure we'll be closing down some of the roads along First Street around Buckeye before the weekend, because it will get up to First Street more than likely. So just be aware of those people that are out and about to use caution in that area. So that's kind of the updates on those 2 items. So thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Anyone else have a comment? Any other comments? Any other comments? Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll close that portion of the agenda. Consent agenda.
Consent agenda items for tonight's meeting are as follows. Approve the meeting minutes of the March 11, 2019 regular council meeting and the March 18, 2019 special council meeting. Approve the following claims in the amount of $347,608.36. Approve the issuance of operator licenses to Andrew Claypool, Cole Kristen, Scott Fagula, Jared Johnson, Aaron Stanaway, and Ingrid Swenson. Approve the issuance of a temporary beer liquor license to the Hudson Hockey Association for the Hall Pass Men's Tournament scheduled for April 5th through 7th, 2019 at Gornick Arena at 1820 Hanley Road. Approve the run-walk application submitted by Willow River Elementary School for their Celebrate Difference Autism Awareness Run-Walk event scheduled for April 6, 2019. Approve the run-walk application submitted by the National MS Society scheduled for May 4, 2019. Place on file the March 12, 2019 Public Utilities Commission meeting minutes. Discussion and possible action on a letter of engagement with SEH for a St. Croix Street sanitary sewer extension. Approve the purchase and installation of 2 sets of crosswalk warning systems on Hanley Road at O'Neill Road and Heritage Boulevard.
Your motion?
Move to approve. Second.
Motion and second to approve the consent agenda. Roll call.
Morissette.
Yes.
Alms.
Yes.
DeZiel.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Atkins Hoggett. Yes. Hall.
Yes.
Motion's approved. Into a new business, we are going to move item D up to the beginning of the new business agenda. So discussion and possible action on the adoption of ordinance 5-19, amending chapter 235, vehicles and traffic.
This is in regards to the parking, and Nick, you want to introduce yourself and is going to give a little presentation on the new parking system.
Good evening, council members, mayor. My name is Nick Coliani. I'm part of the parking work group here at the City of Hudson. We've been working for many years to come up with solutions to help ease the parking in Hudson, and we helped to push forward the new multi-space meter purchase that the council adopted or passed in recent months. So as you know, these new parking pay stations are going in. These pay stations are really just one piece of the overall parking component of the city. In addition to the fee collection of these pay stations, we also have other items to be aware of, such as rates, time limits, enforcement. So the parking work group has worked hard to come up with some recommendations that we'd like you to consider. And these recommendations are based on the parking study that was completed by Rich and Associates in 2018. The recommendations are designed to encourage public adoption of the technology. We want the public to embrace the new multi-space pay stations. And our recommendations are based on a request for a 6-month review period so we can continue to revisit and have a discussion about what is and isn't working. In the short term, we hope that these recommendations will help create more perceived parking in the city of Hudson by encouraging behaviors, encouraging people who park for longer periods of time to maybe park a little further away. And long term, we hope that these recommendations will allow the city of Hudson to continue to expand the parking system when that time comes. As for the recommended changes to the code, there's a few changes that we sort of see as housekeeping items. Changing the definitions from meters to pay stations, for example, to keep up with the current technology, and renaming some of the parking lots so we can better message to residents and visitors of the city where the parking options are located. As for the rates, we're recommending to keep the rate at 50 cents an hour, but calculate in 1-hour increments. With the new pay stations, we will have the ability to accept credit card payments and coins, in addition to mobile payments. We feel that 50 cents an hour is a good rate for us to start with until we can get some data in, and we can really review the data and the usage of the system to make further recommendations if necessary. As for the permits, we're recommending that a $100 annual permit be implemented for employees of downtown businesses to help them with their parking situation, and a $200 annual permit to be made available to others. Those permits would also be available as a monthly permit, $10 for employees, $20 for others. Time limits, we're recommending 3 hours parking on all of the streets. The 3-hour limit, we felt, gives people enough time to come downtown, maybe enjoy a meal, visit a few shops. There is 8-hour parking in this recommendation as well. And the 8-hour parking is located at the Beach House, Williams, and North lots. We're also recommending that we have the ability to use the boat landing parking lot in the off-season in order to accommodate more 8-hour parking. As far as enforcement, that's another important component of the parking system that needs to work together. We'd like to add 1 hour of enforcement to the day, but we'd like to shift the schedule from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. We'd also like to add Saturdays into the enforcement schedule as well. So some of the things that we are not recommending to change include the holiday parking from Thanksgiving to New Year's, free parking on Sundays, keeping the rate at 50 cents per hour, not adjusting the parking permits, the parking tickets, they would stay at $7, and continue to use the mobile payment application as we've been using, but with the new technology, this will actually be expanded to every parking space in the city. So we request your action to review these recommendations and approve them. Thank you.
Anything?
Well, I think it's a very, what we've done is pretty comprehensive. We listened to our business partners downtown, for the most part, right, Mary Claire? So things were really good, and this is about the future and planning ahead. And the next step is to collect the data, as Nick said, and then hopefully when the time is right, we're looking at a 3-year payoff, 3.5?
Less than 3.5.
So, and that's a pretty good payoff turnaround. So we like that, and hopefully then from there we can look, and this is kind of, we bought a very dynamic system, as we were always told in our committee meetings, that we can change as we need and as we see fit. And this is one step in making the parking puzzle help get easier, especially with future development of what we do and what we decide to do for either surface lots or what have you, purchasing more surface lots, different dilapidated properties, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of where we're at. We went through it quite a bit. I think over 22 years, but I think it's been longer than that it's been talked about to start. So I will move to suspend the rules.
I'll second.
Motion and second to suspend the rules. Roll call.
Morissette.
Yes.
Alms.
Yes.
DeZiel.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Atkins Hoggett.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Motion's approved. Rules are suspended.
Randy, can I ask you a few questions?
Absolutely.
So,
Before you do, if it's okay, Paul.
Yeah.
There are a number of business people in here. There are a number of people that sat on the committee. And for everybody that sat on the committee, had participation in this, I'd love to have you stand up, be recognized for what you've done.
It's kind of like.
Excellent. So we did, and I'm sure there were more that aren't here, is that right? But again, like this is clearly great citizen participation, and it's great to have community involved in deliberations like this and in making policy for the city, helping to make policy for the city. So I personally want to extend my gratitude and thanks to all of you that have put in a lot of time on this, and I think have come up with a pretty good solution for now. Go ahead.
yeah, so I also echo that. Thanks for the work. I think it's a good comprehensive, I think is the word Randy used, and I think that's true. I have a couple of details just I want to raise in terms of questions. One is, on page 163 of my agenda, it says the lots that are being established. One is the library lot. So is the idea that we're establishing the library lot as a zone, or are we talking about folks would have to pay to use the library? Would it be a 50-cent, charge for the library every time you park there, or is this just the establishment of a zone?
It's just the establishment of the zone. I believe there's more work that needs to be done before assigning a fee to that zone can be accomplished.
And is the idea that each of the zones might be priced sort of differently or at different times? Is that kind of would they all be the same, or how does that work?
Initially, our recommendation would be to leave all of the zones the same. We do want to make a distinction between the zones, so at a point in the future, if we want to change rates or perhaps time limits in certain zones, that could be accomplished.
Yeah. Just my thought is I think I would love to see the library just be a free parking for families, little kids running in there, dropping off books, getting books. Part of me just says that's a good way to keep that. So I don't know if that's being proposed or if that's a later conversation when we talk about the...
Simply to create a zone.
Okay.
Yep. And to speak a little bit more to just running in and dropping off, there's a number of 15-minute parking zones as well throughout the city where people can make a quick stop. So I just wanted to mention that.
Okay.
I think you handled it perfectly. And I think we want to get with the library board too to make sure
Yeah.
our approach is consistent with their mission.
Right, for sure. And then a couple questions on, I think I'm on page 166 now, my packet here. This is the violation, basically it's the fees for violation. So first violation in 24 hours is $7. That's probably what's been historic, I'm guessing. But to me, that just seems super low. I don't know. I'm going to pay $3 for, what is it, 50 cents an hour for my 3 hours, right? Or I'm going to risk going $7. It just seems that we could adjust some of this so we could enforce more of an incentive to actually use the pay stations. Or
We spent a lot of time on numbers for fines and the hours, but go ahead, Nick, and I think Mary Claire could sum up some of that too as well.
Sure. I'm just curious of thinking behind it, I guess, more than anything.
Well, I think what we're hoping to do with this new system, with this new technology and the new enforcement tools is to collect data. So we have a better idea of where we stand once these pay stations go live. We don't want to penalize anybody or create a perception in the public that we're trying to gouge. So for now, we thought it'd be more appropriate to keep it where it is, and then evaluate once we actually have good data, see what kind of voluntary compliance we're getting with the meters.
So segueing into that with Mary Claire, the parking committee also hired out a marketing firm.
Okay.
And Mary Claire, you spoke well to that the last time we met. So if you want to touch base on how we're rolling out the public information piece and how we're going to market it, will probably offset some of your questions, hopefully.
Thank you, Councilmember Morissette. I'm Mary Claire Olson with the Hudson Chamber of Commerce. Potter.
What's your name?
I know. Don't tell John. No, yes, so one of the recommendations from the parking study was to hire a communications consultant to help us present this out to the public and to the shop owners and the restaurants and to the guests and the residents here in Hudson. So that is our plan, to put together a marketing piece that will outline all of what the new regulations are. And again, just be really clear on how this is going to work. I mean, our goal is that I've been talking to a lot of people downtown, and a lot of people are on board with these changes, but we just want to be sure we have a good plan moving forward.
A lot of the not raising it was we're throwing a lot at them all at once in the change. And we wanted to mitigate any kind of feeling that we're making a money grab, or however you wanted to put it, and roll it out gently to everybody and informatively out to everybody.
Sure. And then you could adjust in future years
Correct.
or something is what you're thinking. I can see that.
Because this program, the city is almost doubling the number of parking spots that you're going to be metering compared to what you're metering now, too. So I think, as Councilmember Morissette said, because of all of these changes, we didn't want to go out and do everything all at once. I think this is a good step in the right direction. The committee is committed to reevaluating all of the data once we have it within 6 months. And as that has been said, it is a dynamic system, so it can be changed as needed.
Yep. And then my other thought was, so the fee for parking at a fire plug is $25, or parking in a fire lane is $25?
We haven't changed those. Those are something we could always revisit for the bond schedule outside of this parking.
Right, and I'm not saying we have to change it now. Again, to me, that seems really low, just based on public safety. I don't, $25 to park and fire, on a fire meter, right, is what we're talking about? So to me, I would want that to be a lot higher, I guess, to encourage just public safety stuff. So, and again, I'm not saying we need to do that tonight, but I think at some point we need to revisit these numbers and sort of say, maybe you get the system up and running is what you're thinking, and then we'll look at that.
Well, those can always be readjusted at our public safety meeting. So if you wanted to talk about those particular fines and forfeitures,
Sure.
we can take that up at that meeting. That's a separate issue than this.
Okay,
It just falls under that category of
Gotcha.
ordinance.
okay, fair enough.
So while we're talking about the fines, though, and I now understand that we can change them later, but I was just thinking for the police department to write the letters, the notices, after the fact. So it didn't make any sense to me that you could be 24-hour parked for $25, but your second violation within a 24-hour period is $15, plus you had your 7, so that's $22. Or you have a 24-hour violation for $25. It's just something kind of. If I was a person in the police department having to write the letter, I'd be like, "What am I supposed to bill them for?" I don't. It's just a little bit unclear.
We kind of got backed up on a time frame because we want to start this April.
Okay, gotcha.
So we wanted to present this so we had something to roll out and finish and start with the ordinance on a base level, and then we can revisit those, the bond schedules and whatnot as we go. And now that you've pointed it out, we can revisit it at our next public safety meeting.
Okay, super. And we could probably eliminate the odd even parking violations.
Yep.
We don't have that anymore, I don't think.
No.
That is for snow.
That was, for a few years, they did on, or 1 year, I think, we did an uneven over the winter, and
So we
was
could,
not met
but we
with a
can
lot of-
strike it at another future date.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just the housekeeping stuff.
Yeah,
we gotta-
housekeeping stuff, right?
Yeah, the entire snow parking situation is going to be revisited.
You knew that in
As a
Public
separate
Works.
issue. Right. Yeah. Yeah, we're working on that, but that's going to, just didn't want to have it be part of this. This is a big enough piece to chew. I have One, I guess, I've basically been in support of this whole project. I think it's in the right direction. It's getting us modern technology, getting rid of our old stuff that's costing us money, better enforcement, better information. But and one of the things I see that you've done is some of the permit parking has been removed from certain lots, and you've kind of shifted that around. And at least that's my interpretation from reading it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like
I don't know if we shifted around.
This lot out here is no longer permit parking.
So now they'll have to go behind the fire hall, so
Right.
it's just here to over there.
Yeah, so it's been a shift. But the one that concerns me the most is the beachfront lot now going to all paid or permit. I think that's really wrong, because that's the gem of the city. That's what we talk about. And now we're going to make people pay to go down there. I think that's ridiculous.
Which lot? The beach house?
Beachfront lot. The way I'm reading it, it's
This one or
8-hour
the
parking.
beach house? The beach house down here?
Yeah. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Am I reading that correctly?
Right. You want to touch on our conclusion, how we came to that, Nick?
So to make sure I understand the concern, are you suggesting that maybe the beach house lot, you should not have to pay to park in that lot?
Right. We do not, at this point, we do not. So that's a big shift.
It is. And we're trying to encourage people's behaviors again to park in spaces that maybe aren't right in front of the stores. So we need spaces to offer to 8-hour parkers, to all-day parkers. And the beach house lot is an opportunity to do that mixed in with people who can also park hourly. Now, if the data shows that we need more spaces, 8-hour spaces in another location, or people aren't utilizing that lot, perhaps they could be relocated. That issue could certainly be revisited. But that was our thought behind it, is that we need a space for 8-hour parkers. It's a logical lot a little further away to allow 8-hour parkers to park in. But if you're going to put 8-hour parkers in there and charge them a permit fee, we also need to be charging the other people who are using the lot, or potentially the 8-hour parkers will just park there all day.
Yeah, I understand that logic, but the point that you're missing is that's a destination lot at this point. So you're taking a destination lot, Lakefront Park, and you're pushing all people who need 8-hour parking or permit parking, pushing them down there. And so what happens to our destination now? So maybe we've freed up Main Street a little bit and some of the other lots, but now people can no longer have access. So you're reducing the access to that lot. You're requiring them to pay. If you go down there, people move in and out of there very frequently on an hour, 2-hour basis. Very, very common to have that happen. So I'm just thinking this is not a good idea. I would not support that.
Jim, I think if you could possibly see a way for 6 months so we can get some kind of baseline to figure out where and how we enforce that particular lot, because it's never been enforced, much like the whole south end of First Street has never been enforced. So for us to move forward and to produce a better product, produce more future parking spots, we have to take that lot and take a look at it. So I'm asking from you for 6 months to at least let it go the way we're proposing, so we can get a baseline data on it to see if that's right or wrong.
My preference would be that you not do it for 6 months and then see if you need it. I think that's a better decision than to say, whoops, we made a big mistake here, guys, we're sorry. Time you've irritated a lot of people.
Appreciate your concern, Councilmember Weber. I think one thing to keep in mind, too, is that we are not metering on Sunday. So we know Sunday is a very popular day to go down to the beach and explore the river and do all of that. So just one note that will not be metered on Sunday. So we're adding one day on that again, we will reevaluate in 6 months, and certainly appreciate your support on this issue.
Now, it's not metered on Saturday today either, or it's not metered at all. So now you're going to go to metering 5 days, 6 days a week.
But it is not going to be metered on Sundays, and this is an opportunity for us to reevaluate in 6 months when we have the full amount of data.
Yeah, I don't see that as being a wise decision to go that route. I think you're better off to not do that and see if you need it. See if you resolved the problem without creating a situation where you've really, that's a big disturbance. That's a big change.
Right, and I think
in
the
terms
committee
of-
has spent countless hours
Oh, I
on
know.
this topic and reviewing all of the different issues and the potential outcomes and the potential pros and cons of each of these. And I think they have, have come up with a great solution that, again, we will reevaluate in 6 months.
Jim, I want to make sure I understand your concerns. So right now, you're talking about the beach house, right?
Right.
The lot?
Correct.
And we don't charge there right now.
That's correct.
And so you're concerned that with metering for 8 hours, we're going to allow people to park there that aren't accessing.
People who don't
Beach.
want to, a lot of people come in that park, during the week, during the day, anytime in the morning for an hour, take a walk.
Just to go through the
walk
park
lakefront.
and get down to the beach house,
Yeah.
or get onto the beach.
Right.
Okay.
And then they leave, so they're not there for 8 hours. They're there for a very short period, relatively short periods of time. You'll see about, and you guys may have better observations, but about a third of the lot has people parking in it now that are probably people who are downtown, my guess is people who are working downtown. Just you go by there early in the morning, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, there's about a quarter to a third of the lot is occupied. And the rest of it just moves around as activities occur down there and don't.
And please also note, too, the enforcement will not start until 10 a.m. So for those that enjoy the walk along the river early in the morning and so forth, right, they will enjoy that. It will not start until 10 a.m.
I share that same concern, though, about the library lot and the beach lot, actually. I
think
don't
that-
know if there would be a way to maybe, see, I'm a little confused because I'm thinking if we vote on this, we're trying to just establish the zones. Am I correct about that? But we're not right now establishing if they're going to be charged or what they're going to be charged. Am I right on that? No. All the zones are going to.
The biggest problem that I've heard with the library, just the library, not the other lot, is that because of the difficulty in parking downtown, that people are using the library lot to go to the restaurants or go to the other stores. And so those spots are being taken up anyway.
Okay.
And I know that there will be further discussion with the city and the library to try to figure this out, because everybody wants people to be able to access the library and be able to park there. They're having a hard time right now during those critical hours, those evening hours. So there has to be some type of resolution there, and it's just another zone at this moment. The other, I hadn't really thought about that, down at the beach and the beach house. But it's the same thing on the street, right? I mean, don't we have quite a few of those spots on the street at the park that are currently not metered? And
They're metered right along the front of the lot.
not,
Beach house, are they?
yeah, but farther down along the park,
No, when you get down further.
right,
south.
that were not metered, that are now going to be metered. It's the same thing. People that are accessing the park that are going to be paying on those spots. And I think and believe me, I've had a lot of discussions with these guys about this. It just seems to me that where we've had unmetered spaces, people are parking extended hours and we're not getting turnover. And from the way I understand this, they're thinking that turnover in these spots is going to help mitigate our overall parking problem, to the extent that we may not even need to be considering other options for ramps or things like that. Okay, so with 300 and some new stalls that are currently not metered, that will be metered, people can park for as long as they want there, 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever, not overnight, obviously, but it's not creating any turnover in those spots. And so with those now being metered, we'll have turnover that will help to, hopefully, if everything works out according to plan, will help to mitigate our overall parking problem, our deficit downtown during those peak hours.
Right. No, but what I get is that we've advantaged downtown and disadvantaged the park.
I get it, yeah.
The people is not necessarily the same populations attend the same too. So I just
Can't argue that,
yeah. And I would rather see us not do that now, and see if when you get done, if you're satisfied with the results of what we have. Although as I think about this and listen to conversations, I hear that if it's open, people are going to move. They're going to go, if it's free,
Right.
they're going to go down there anyway. So it's, we could see that shift.
Could be worse, actually.
Yeah.
Right.
But then we could institute it if we see that happen. If that lot fills up with, I don't know, freeloaders is not the right word, but people who need the fuller parking.
How many spaces are in the beach lot, and how many permits would you issue for that lot for 8-hour parking?
I'll have to look at how many spaces are in that lot, but as far as issuing permits. 102, thank you. Historically, the city hasn't, well, I shouldn't say that. As far as what we would expect is that you're not going to be limited to just a lot.
Oh, so if they have a permit, they could park in any of the lots that are, or any of the lots?
Any of the 8-hour
Eight-hour spaces.
lots.
Okay.
So we'd be able to move them around based on the capacities in those
Okay.
lots.
So you wouldn't even know how many would be parking in the beach lot? I mean, you'd get data on that.
Correct. We would get data. The enforcement tool being implemented here is license plate recognition.
Yeah.
So the license plate would be tied to the permit. So we would get that data.
I have a question. It might have been just the same question, but so in that lot, there will be both 3-hour parking, and that's paid with the new system, and 8-hour parking that people can park
With a permit.
with a permit.
Correct.
Two separate types of spaces, separately signage?
No, they'd be intermingled.
Okay.
Yep.
When you talk about the beach lot, that's an 8-hour and permit. It's not a 3-hour and permit, correct?
There's a,
Yeah, according to this.
I believe there's still a pay station being located in that
Yeah,
lot, though.
3-hour.
But
people
it's
could
an
pay.
8-hour pay station.
So it's either 3 hours with a pay station or 8 hours with a permit.
My mistake. Thank you.
Well, that's not the way this reads, so this is going to have to be, it's an 8-hour parking limit. Williams Lot, North Lot, Beach House Lot, on First Street between Elm Street and Vine Street.
So the lots that we're asking for permit, or where people can use a permit to park, those zones, none of them will have signage per stalls? It'll be just
Not
the
per
entire
stall.
lot? Okay.
Right.
There'll be one entrance sign on most,
Gotcha.
identifying what it is.
Gotcha.
The fear might be is if we designate some spaces for permits and some for hourly, we might have stalls sitting empty. Want to try to utilize them all.
Give your balance.
So, I mean, we could do we did suspend the rules, correct?
Right, yep.
If you wanted a first reading, the contingent,
If I just may add one more final comment. On the library part, we talked a long time about that and possibly working with the library board on designating a couple spots that would be 30 minutes for free, so that people can still go out, go into the library, drop their books off and so forth. But I think the consensus was if we make that just a free lot, everyone's going to find out about that. And then they're just going to park there. And I think on the beach lot, I think was a lot of thought that went into that. And one of the recommendations from our communications consultant is you want to have one concise plan that we're going to put out to the public. And we want to make it as clear as possible. And I think if we start saying, this lot you can do this, and then this lot is over here. So, I mean, we're trying to say this is where you can park for 3 hours, this is where you can park for 4, this is 8-hour permit parking, and just having one clear message is going to be a key part about making this program successful.
Agree. Well, I want to thank everyone who's worked so hard on this. I know that a lot of thought and time went into it. I have a couple of minor changes I'd like to make on the code before, that it would be contingent upon the approval. It lists May 30th as a date, and that's not always Memorial Day, so I think it should say the 4th Monday of May. That's in the first ordinance. So that would be one recommended change I'd like to make. And maybe this one can happen later. No, it's not budget driven. So E on the first ordinance is talking about angle parking. I'm going to suggest you just strike that all together because people can see where the angled parking is, where it's not. But if you do want to keep it, you've missed the angled parking that is on First Street, all along the riverfront side. That's not listed. And then adding north of Vine on First Street would have to be added. So the thing is about having that kind of parking called out separately. Whenever you add that kind of parking, you got to go change the ordinance, and that doesn't make any sense to me. Handle angle parking with signage rather than ordinance. That would be my suggestion on that one. I did have a couple tiny ones more. Yeah, consistency on the second ordinance actually says Memorial Day, but it should say fourth Monday of May. And then finally, nope, that's it. Those are the minor things that I would like to see.
Thank you. And one final comment is, with this program, too, comes a whole new signage program. So the recommendation is to implement the common blue and white parking signs that you see in a lot of communities. So we'll be changing those out, and just having really clear signage is going to be key to the success, too, and that is a part of the plan when we roll it out.
A couple minor things that what happens when we start reading ordinances. You say, oh, why did we do that before? But for one is the Dyke Road parking is prohibited. Bang, that's what it says. But I think we need to say something there about the service vehicles that are there frequently and sometimes way too long. 4 or 6 hours, the service vehicle will be there, and it's not necessary. It's just for the convenience of the people who are working on the boats. So they can deliver their stuff, and then they can need to move their vehicles, my opinion.
Wait, you're talking about the charter boats?
Yeah. Yeah, when they bring their stuff to fill, that's fine. I see the need for that, but they don't need to stay there and then do whatever else they're doing. The vehicle needs to leave, so the Dyke becomes the avenue we want it to be. But we need to allow it. It's right now, they could be ticketed just for being there, and that's not what we want to do.
Right.
The other piece is, this one was strange. It says, no parking 275 feet south of Buckeye. And I'm trying to figure out, why would anyone park? There's no parking south of Buckeye.
Sure.
It's traffic lanes.
South of Buckeye is going into the...
on Second Street.
The marina.
On Second Street, south of Buckeye.
On Second Street, oh, yeah.
So that just seemed like, well, someone needs to take a look at that and see if I'm right or wrong on that, but it was just, doesn't match my mind of what's...
A lot of the stuff down there was around getting the boats in and out of the marina at the time, a long time ago.
Yeah, that's why these things are coming up. But that's it for the... And I'm glad you're going to be looking at data, because one of the things I had down is how are we going to measure the impact of this change. That's really important, that we're not looking at anecdotal stuff. That'll be important, what we hear. And the other piece would be in your marketing communications, that who do they address their concerns to? Mike Monroe, as Public Works Director, is probably going to get all the phone calls.
That's the wrong mic, the other mic.
So that'd be a really good piece to have there.
I'm going to move we approve the changes and contingent on some of the items that Sarah had mentioned.
I'll second that.
To adopt the ordinance.
Okay, there's a motion and second to adopt the ordinance with some changes that have been suggested here. Everybody got those?
Send them to Mike, everybody get them to Mike, so there's one collecting. Is that okay with you?
Which Mike?
Mike Johnson?
I'll be able to go back and watch the video too and make sure that I get them. I can do it.
All right. Everybody good?
I do have one question. Sure. I assume that we do have a plan for, so boat launch would now be parking during the winter? Is that?
Potentially, yes.
When it's not full of snow.
I was just going to say, do we have a plan there for snow plowing and whatnot?
We talked about, there were some concerns about salting that lot, and I think that we would just not salt it and to see how it performs, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and then we come back in 6 months and
gotcha.
Change the ordinance. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
Nay.
Oh,
Nay.
one nay. Got it. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just
Motion's
want to
approved.
thank all of you for your support on this, and a public thank you to the committee who has spent countless hours putting this program together, along with Councilmember Morissette and the city staff. So thank you very much.
Great, and thank you everybody that helped on this. Appreciate it. I know it took a long time, and looking forward to getting it started. Thanks, everybody. All right, discussion and possible action on final plat for St. Croix Meadows redevelopment. Oh, I'm sorry. Community subsidies budget.
I included information in the budget, I don't know if, in the packet. I think all of you are aware that the room tax funds are designated 70% to go to the Chamber of Commerce, so whatever the room tax revenue for the year is, whatever that number is, they get 70%. We do a budgeted amount, and then the remaining 30% is the city has the authority to spend those funds. We've usually tried to keep it, for the most part, tourism-related or community-related, so the budget's in front of you. I don't know if you have any questions. If there's additional ideas or whatever for items you'd like to include, there's about $19,000 that, from the estimated budget this year, that's still unallocated. Sometimes that's been used sometimes in the past. In the middle of summer, some project will come up that, you know, we want to be involved with, you as a council, or if there's something else. But
Yeah, I'd like to see the FIP Center add back in there. And as a member of the tourism industry and community, you know, they do bring a lot of folks back into this community, bed and breakfast, or sleep and play, whatever you want to say. And I would certainly suggest the $5,000 for a talking point.
Is there a specific use that you would like for that money?
That goes to the FIP Center. Did
Yeah, I
say
know,
that?
but I mean,
Stipulate how they use it.
stipulate how they use it, or,
I don't know in the past how they've used it.
I don't think there's been any restrictions on it. They used to receive an allotment, which maybe was $2,500, and then 4 or 5 years ago, when the room tax monies went down, the thought at that time was that because they have their own revenue source, if you will, because they have tickets and they have performances, versus some of these other groups that, you know, don't have that option. They were one of the groups that was phased out at that time, and so.
I wasn't here when they got taken off of the list, but does anyone know how much they spend to get that Minnesota Orchestra here every summer?
How much they donate to that? I don't know what that. Do you know what that number is, Mike?
I don't, sorry.
I know it's quite a bit, but
That they donate to, yes, because they do, the FIPS pays for the Minnesota Orchestra concert. That does not come out of our.
I mean, that brings a lot of people here. I would support Randy and agree with Randy in the addition of that.
I'll move we add FIP Center for $5,000.
I'll second that.
Got a motion, a second. I just got to say, I certainly don't have a problem with that, but they haven't requested it.
I did get an email from somebody, so I could certainly send that around.
Okay. No, that's good. Any other discussion?
Other items on that particular one.
I see the Pee Wee International Hockey League, Pee Wee International Hockey's on here, and we had the opportunity to, when it was here before, to have 4 of the kids stay with us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they had 6 parents here, I think, so who could not stay with the kids. So they were rooms, food, cars. You know, they paid for it for sure.
Yeah.
So it's a really, really good investment, and if we could do more, should do more, I would support that.
That request actually came from me. I submitted it on behalf of the Pee Wee International because, in fact,
Is it enough?
yeah, it is.
Okay.
We're getting $1,200 also from the chamber, and but there were a couple other things that needed to be done. One in particular, we're having buttons made that say Hudson 2021. We're trying to bring the tournament back here in
Right.
2021.
Right.
And so it's specifically for buttons and a couple other things that we needed the additional money for. Back in '07, the city funded it to, I think $3,000 was given to help bring that tournament here in 2011. So significantly less, but they know us a lot more, and they certainly enjoyed it when they were here in 2011.
And I did look, the room tax increase, and actually 2011 was kind of during the recession, and it was about a $40,000 bump that quarter when, the June and early July to the room tax. So that's 3% of the total taken in, so there was a big impact, so.
Is now an appropriate, are we done talking about that part?
Well, there's a motion on the floor, may I say, Chair? If we could.
Just to add the 5,000.
That's right. Good point. Brings back. All right. So we have motion in front of us. Any other discussion on the FIPS request? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Anything else?
Well, I wanted to acknowledge the Hudson ambassadors. I know that they've had some turmoil, and I feel really, my heart goes out to the struggles within the Hudson ambassadors, and acknowledge that we're now going to be continuing to support that organization in this budget. I didn't know if it was an appropriate time for us to talk about that topic.
I would say yes. I mean, I don't think there's any time more appropriate probably than now.
Well, funding it, or?
Well,
is that what you're talking about? Is the funding?
We were, I believe, directly asked by a constituent to cease our funding of it because of what had happened this past year.
If you got the same emails I got, if they were the constituents, if they were the people whose daughters were involved, they are not constituents. They're not. I think one lives in town of Hudson and one lives in North Hudson.
And not the, I don't think it's not, nobody's here to talk one way or the other. I don't think it's appropriate for us to have that conversation.
Okay. I understand, yeah.
Well, the funding is, I mean.
Funding, yeah.
They're not, but, so, I mean, if they're not here to request or, that's, I guess, on them, either one of them. But the issue of funding is still in front of us. So, Sarah, did you want to talk about the funding level of it, or whether we should fund it, or?
I would say we should continue to fund it and keep it where it's at in this proposed 2019 budget.
Okay.
So, good to go.
And just for clarification, which Kathy asked me, the cemetery, that additional allowance that they're asking for, one more year, the Prospect Park Buckthorn and the Pew International are all theoretically one-time things again. So that's why they're on that second page, just for clarification, because we have that balance in there, as opposed to everything on the first page as part of the annual, and plus now the FIPS, just so everybody's clear on that funding part of it.
Do you want a motion on all of the requested subsidies?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to make a motion on that, the whole thing, so both pages of this proposal, which has already been amended by what you did before, that's probably the best way.
I'll move, so if there's.
Second.
Motion second for approval. Further
Question, sorry. So the Hot Air Fair 2020 event is $2,500. Just, I don't know the background. Is that enough, I guess would be my question.
That's what they've.
Is that what they use, basically?
Yeah, they haven't requested additional.
Okay.
What we did in 2019 was, because we were always funding them after the event, because a lot of times this didn't come till February or March, and they're already, so in 2019 we did 18 and 19 in last year. So this year we're doing 2020, so we're ahead of we're funding them for next year so that they're not having to wait. But they have not requested additional. They've been very,
okay,
to my knowledge, have been pleased with that amount.
Yeah, they're just such a signature event. I want to make sure that they're getting support. So,
anything else for discussion? All right, we've got a motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion possible action on the final plat for St. Croix Meadows redevelopment.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and esteemed council members. My name is Janelle Taveja with WSB, the project manager and civil engineering consultant representing the development team of St. Croix Meadows, LLC. Clint Klaas, one of the development members, is also here with me this evening if there's any specific questions for him. This item is the final plat for St. Croix Meadows redevelopment as shown in your packet. It is in compliance with the preliminary plat that was approved in November of 2018. As the packet information was presented to you, there is the proposed final plat includes 8 lots and 3 outlots. The 3 outlots are mostly for stormwater management and for the protected slope area on the far east side of the development. There's also an additional 2 outlots representing the future public right-of-way dedication of Sharon Lane, which will be an east-west segment off the dedicated public right-of-way of Brecken Drive to a 2.5-acre parkland as required by our approvals this past fall. That 2.5 area of parkland will be for city right-of-way at a future date. So we are in compliance with the preliminary plat with those minor changes. And I'm here to answer any specific questions if you have any. One other thing to note, we are in full agreement with the 5 conditions of approval in the recommendation.
Anybody?
I will move we approve contingent on, and accepting the staff recommendations and changes.
Second.
Motion and second. Paul, do you have anything?
Yeah, just had a question. The Sharon Lane, I'm just having trouble seeing it on these maps. Did you guys, were you able to find it? Is it right off that Brecken Drive?
Yeah, so
Is
if
it on
you,
the second one, maybe?
if you look on sheet 2 of 5 of your packet in the bottom right, that's the second page of the plat document itself. It's labeled as Outlot 5. Yeah.
I was looking for that by name, sorry. That's why, okay. And then my other question maybe for Mike, for the MS4 for the stormwater, do you feel comfortable that we have enough space for that piece?
That's probably an Eric question, but I think, yeah, we have our stormwater engineer here, so that's perfect.
Okay.
While he's making his way up here, if it's okay, one of the questions that came up during Plan Commission was whether or not we plan to connect with a road to Tower. That is not the intention of this plan. There's not intended to be a through road for a couple of reasons, but most notably because there's a giant culvert there and there's a significant amount of grade to deal with. So it will not connect to Tower Road. So filled some space for me.
Yeah, thank you. So I could think about it. Yeah, so we did review the entire
Identify
site.
yourself again, please.
I'm Eric Kingsgaard with SCH, consultant to the city. I do a lot of stormwater work with the mics. But to do all the stormwater review for WSB's plan, and throughout there's a big stormwater pond on the south end that the city owns, a regional pond, that actually has a lift station in it. And so what we wanted to do throughout the development was to not have that lift station work more than it does prior to the development. And so that's kind of been our threshold throughout, is this lift station is only going to kick on in big enough storms as it did before, and that's what we've been working towards, and this does that.
So you feel comfortable with the plan as it is for stormwater?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
Well, the only other question I have, and Randy might know, the traffic we've talked about before, and is that related to the Tower Road not going through? We had talked about that, I think, at one point.
I don't think we ever had Tower Road going through, if I recall.
No.
Okay.
No.
The very, very, very first presentation showed the link to Tower Road.
But
That went away really quick.
But I guess my overall question is traffic-wise.
yeah, we're stubbing it out for traffic signals.
With the conduit, and yes.
Okay.
Anybody else? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Discussion possible action on the adoption of Resolution 8-19 approving the Stormwater Prevention Plan and the Stormwater Modeling and Management Plan.
Good evening again, Council. It's your lucky night. You get to listen to about some stormwater presentations. Sounds like fun, huh?
All right.
As you're aware, Hudson's now required to get a MS4 permit, annual permit through the Wisconsin DNR, and part of the permit requirements are to have a stormwater management plan, modeling plan, and a SWIP, which is basically a plan for our municipal garages. And basically, what happened was previous staff applied for a grant to help fund the creation of these plans, which are right here. And Eric Henningsgaard from SEH was the kind of the main driver of the development of these plans. The grant funded a vast majority of the creation of these plans, and now that we have them, they finished them up probably in January, early February. Now that we have these plans, these are the plans that we will be following as a city, and seeing that they are an important document with the Wisconsin DNR, it's appropriate to pass a resolution adopting these as official city documents that city staff will follow now and into the future. So with that being said, I'm just going to turn it over to Eric. He's just going to give a brief kind of overview of each plan. 10 minutes, I think, is what we gave him. So nothing.
10 minutes each plan.
10 minutes each plan? Okay, yeah. There was one plan that we did.
Move to adjourn.
Yeah. There is one plan that I did omit from your packet, and it is the MS4 pollutant modeling. And this gets into a lot of the technical aspects of the city's overall stormwater management, phosphorus, nitrogen, you name it. So it's some of it is over my head.
We noticed that was missing.
Yeah. So the plans that are in your packet are kind of more the practical plans that the city will be using now and into the future. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to Eric.
All right. I'm Eric Kingsguard, SCH, consultant to the city, do a lot of stormwater stuff and work on these plans, as Mr. Mraz said. I think stormwater is a good thing. I think that managing it, especially on the river, it's such an asset to the city, and the majority of what this plan does, this permit, is all water quality based. And so it's really making sure that the river stays clean and waters of the state stay clean. So it's you can really see a practical application here. So the resolution, like Mr. Mraz said, has 3 different plans in it. And I'll go through them really quick in order. The first one was the pollutant modeling, and like you said, it is all technical. It's one that will sit on the shelf and never get looked at again unless there's an issue in the future. But basically what it does is we go through and model the entire city and look at the pollutants that are being created by stormwater, and are you cleaning it enough before it goes to the river in accordance with DNR requirements. And currently you are. There's enough infiltration, enough good sand that basically not enough stormwater gets to the river that it meets the requirements of phosphorus and total suspended solids removal. So that one will go on the shelf, and we'll leave it there until the DNR rules change, and then we'll look at it again. But that one's not one that you'll use. The next one, the stormwater management plan, is really a policies and procedures type plan that city staff will use to implement the MS4, the stormwater program throughout. And so there's multiple sections throughout that report that really outline what the city has to do on a yearly, a monthly kind of basis. And so that one, there are 6 different elements. I won't go through everyone in depth, but there's a public education and outreach, self-explanatory, public involvement and participation. There's illicit discharge detection and elimination. That's something in the storm sewer that's not supposed to be in the storm sewer. So city staff has to go out and look at storm sewer discharges when there's no rain and see if there is any discharge. And if there's an illicit one, then we have to track it down and find out what it is and see if it's harmful. Construction site pollutant control, post-construction management. Those 2 you passed an ordinance for back in 2017. Now it's implementing that ordinance. Inspections have to be done on construction sites, have to be done on post-construction, or what we call post-construction. That's ponds and infiltration basins, so that they continue to clean the water before they go to the river. And so we set up some different spreadsheets and different tracking devices so that it makes it easier on city staff of what they need to look for when they go out there, how often they need to look at these things. We put together an overall calendar too, so that as Miraz is going through his year, he knows roughly when he has to do different things throughout the year. So we're really trying to make this a working document to help implement the program. So that's number 2. And number 3 is we call a municipal SWIP, Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, for the municipal garages, east and west garage. And what you do there is you go and you look for sources of pollution. There's some piles out there and things. You look for sources of pollution, and then you look for ways to prevent it from running off site, basically. And that's an ongoing thing too. They have to do quarterly inspections and an annual report, but they follow that plan. So really that's the 3 that are on the resolution.
Okay.
I appreciate the thoroughness of the plans and just details, and it just struck me as really well thought out when I went through it. So.
Yeah, and thank you for that. We spent a lot of time with the city staff and really didn't want to make it a big, thick document. We want it to be short.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want somebody to look at it and go, I'm not going to read that thing. Yeah. We want it to be a working document and be usable, so appreciate that. Yeah.
Move to suspend the rules.
Second.
Motion is second to suspend. Roll call.
Morissette.
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
DeZiel.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Atkins Hoggett.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Rules are suspended.
Move to adopt Resolution 8-19.
Second.
Motion is second to adopt. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Thanks. Good to see you. All right. Communications from the mayor. Brian, our IT gentleman, has suggested that, oh, you're going to talk here? I was just going to say, I don't think you have to, but maybe. It's not on the agenda, so, but Brian is suggesting that we change our domain with the state, and especially, in my opinion, relating to emails. So rather than having that long email designation that we have, Brian is suggesting that we change it to
HudsonWI.gov.
yeah, HudsonWI.gov. It's pretty simple.
Informational.
He asked me to sign off on this. I thought that I could probably do it myself, but I didn't want to do that without talking to the council. And if there's any concern on the council's part, then we'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting. But if not, we'll just sign it and send it out.
I guess the only concern would be existing, where we have the existing address
It'll
out there, you know.
everything will transfer.
It'll automatically.
Okay, so to your point, our existing address would redirect to the new website and to the new email, either for a year or 2, whichever we decide. I'd probably go with 2 years just to be safe, or we could keep it indefinitely. I don't see a need to go past more than 3 years, I think. I think after that, city staff should be able to get through all their letterhead and business cards for the most part. And any contacts should have the new addresses at that point.
Okay. Any concerns? We need to have it on the agenda. We'll just do
I like it.
Yeah, I think I like it a lot. I can never remember. I always get it confused, which is first as we go through the deal. All right, so we'll do that. Anybody else?
Just a reminder, your election is a week from tomorrow. Regular polling places, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. You can still vote in-person absentee this week, 8 to 4:30 Tuesday and Wednesday, and 8 to 5 Thursday and Friday here at City Hall. So everybody would, if they want to vote early, is here at City Hall, and then the election on Tuesdays at the regular places. So.
Ad hoc committee meeting, 5 o'clock Wednesday. Chief.
Honorable Mayor, common council members, real quick, just a communication. We're having a little informal gathering Thursday, April 4th at Hop and Barrel at 7 o'clock for 4 of our members who have 40-plus years on.
Oh, wow.
Dean Rossing has 42, Tom Zulli 41, Jeff DeBruzzi 40, and Jim Fry is coming up on 40 a little bit later this year. Just kind of want to recognize them. You're all welcome to come. It's a very informal gathering. that being said, a really interesting fact is 3 of those 4 are in the top 5 in run percentages still, with Jeff DeBruzzi, I think, did 98% last year, and who has pretty much been 90% for 4 years, which is pretty incredible. So those 4 are, you know, obviously big contributors, which a lot of times doesn't happen later in the career, and those have kind of proven that theory wrong. So you're welcome to show up if you want, but I just kind of want to recognize those 4 individuals, and we'll just be kind of, you know, talking a little bit about that night. And if you're around, you're welcome to stop by.
What time?
7 to 9, April 4th at Hop and Barrel. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Anybody else? Motion?
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Motion second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.